It's been a busy night, so I'm going to give you a review of about 12 or so cases that's been handed down from various different courts, including the Supreme Court in the last 24 to 48 hours. So I am going to do more deep dives in these various different cases in future videos, but I want to at least give you a summary. The big one is at 1 a.m., the United States Supreme Court blocked the Trump administration's attempt to send another plane full of Venezuelan and perhaps just random Hispanic and Latino men to the torture camp in El Salvador. And how this came about was that there is a couple of detainees that the ACLU had managed to get a temporary restraining order on their behalf in Texas. But after they did that, they heard news that there was a new plane. Some detainees had gotten an email in under 24 hours, because the Supreme Court has said that these people are allowed and should be given a minimum of 24 hours notice, and they should be given notice to their attorneys so they can plead and try to protect themselves from being deported. The difference between habeas corpus, like pleading due process, and traditional criminal immigration or immigration hearings is it's a longer process, and the government has to bring their case and they have to present all this evidence. But the habeas corpus is like they have to bring it, but you have the opportunity to defend yourself and say why the basis of which they're trying to remove you don't apply to you. But so the ACLU heard this and went straight back to the Fifth Circuit and said, we know you have you've given us a temporary restraining order, but we would like an emergency hearing on this news that we're hearing because we have to block that. The judge, it's a conservative area, it's a conservative judge. That's why it's Trump administration take people from New York and they arrest them in New York and they ship them immediately down to Texas. Or they take them from Massachusetts and New York down to Louisiana, where they feel like the judges down there will be more friendly to them, and that's the reason why they take them down there. But the district court judge said, I'm busy with a criminal trial right now. I'll get back to you later. Dude. So they said, we can't wait for you. We're going to do a couple of things. So they immediately appealed to the Fifth Circuit. And at the same time, the ACLU ran to Judge Boasberg in the District Court, D.C. and said, hey, can you do something about this? Judge Boasberg was like, I would love to do something. But however, remember, the Supreme Court took this away from me when they vacated my order. I already have a temporary restraining order as to the class of every single person who would be subject to that law and removed. But they said, I can't do that. It said it had to be district by district basis. So sorry, I'm going to deny you. They're like, shit. Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, it's a conservative circuit, said, we would love to take your case, but we're not a court of first review. Remember, if you watch my videos, I tell you the trial court level, when they look at the facts, is the district court level. The appellate and the Supreme Court only look at the law. They just check to make sure that the district court below applied the facts to the law correctly. So they review on legal basis, not on factual basis. So the Fifth Circuit was like, we're not a court of first review, so you have to go back down to the district court. So they were like, God damn it. They went to the Supreme Court. They say, Supreme Court, look at here. You got our back. 9-0, you said these people are entitled to 24-hour notice and they can't be removed. And the Fifth Circuit had said, the other reason why Fifth Circuit denied it was before they were about to deny it, the district court below, who said he was too busy doing the criminal trial, he got out and he asked the Trump administration to reply. Drew Ensign, who is the Department of Justice attorney, said he is not aware of any plane. But you know what? He's the same person who told the judge that he wasn't aware of the plane when they took him the first time. So we don't trust him. So anyway, so that's what the Supreme Court said. The Supreme Court paused and told the Solicitor General for that 5th District, it says, you have to respond to this case. So it's a temporary pause, but it's still a pause. So yay. And we have other great news. In the Kilmar Garcia case, my senator from my great state of Maryland got a chance to speak to Kilmar Garcia after initially being denied and turned away. He even drove with attorneys to the prison and was turned away by armed people who came up. I was just thinking about the Jim Jones and that senator or representative who got, anyway, I was like so scared. But anyway, eventually the next day when he was on his way home, they called him and said, hey, we can actually bring Kilmar to your hotel. They dressed Kilmar all up. They put them in front of I'll talk about that later on, but the TLDR on that is that he was able to tell Kilmar Garcia that he is actually a cultural martyr, and he's represented not just other migrants and people of color. He's representing all Americans who are fearful for this horrible authoritarian wannabe dictator wannabe cruel regime that is the Trump administration and his band of goons. And he was happy to know that he had, that a lot of Americans had his back, and he was like, it was great. And then I'll get into the details later. The two legal things you need to take away from Chris Van Hollen's press conference yesterday evening after he landed back in the United States was that the Trump administration has made zero effort to remove him, even though the Supreme Court said on August, I think it was 10th, on April 10th, that they have to facilitate the return. The prison in El Salvador said they have heard nothing from the United States government about Kilmar leaving. And also, we know now that at least one of the declarations that was submitted on the record is a lie, because one of them on August 12th said that Kilmar is in CCOT. And Kilmar said during his meeting with Senator Van Hollen that over 9 days ago he was sent to Santa Ana, another prison. So the fact that that's what tells you that they're not communicating or they're not taking it seriously. They're not trying to move him. They don't know what the hell's going on in that prison, and they're submitting false records under. Anyway, so let's get to all this stuff. Probation employees. The Supreme Court had stayed or paused the effect of a nationwide injunction by Judge Alsup in District Court in California, stopping the Trump administration from firing probation employees. They said because the unions lack standing. It needs to be brought on behalf of individual fired employees, probation employees. So the Judge Aslip set it up so that can happen. So individual employees can actually complain. So that case continues. And this is why I tell you, when they have wins, when Donald Trump and them have wins, they're temporary wins. Any procedural win is temporary. And this is an example of a temporary win, because even they were stopped, that case continues. So I'll give you an update further on that case. So that's another good one. One of my favorite judges, Judge Amy Berman Jackson, paused the Trump administration's attempt to dismantle and gut the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. That's going to be a good one. Look for that. I'm going to do a further deep dive in there. And also, another judge blocked DOJ access from the Social Security Administration. And he said, I'm going to get more into that one later on too, that it's okay to actually weed out waste, fraud, and abuse. That's okay. But you can't just be plugging in your system, breaking stuff, and giving unfettered access to a bunch of people who don't know what the hell they're doing to all this sensitive information. What the hell are you doing? Anyway, he didn't say all that, but look for that video recap coming soon. Crazy. Also, birthright citizenship is coming up. The Supreme Court's agreed to hear oral arguments on that. They had already agreed to take up that case on appeal. I can tell you, I am one of those, I'm really confident that the Trump administration is going to lose on that one. I do not think that, I think they have the votes to bat that down. So I'm not even worried about that one at all. If you are, don't be. And we can talk about that later in a future video. As to trans individuals, there was an actual nationwide block. There's two things. There was a narrow block, and then a nationwide block of trans attacking trans rights. There were 7 servicemen and women who had filed, and the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals denied a request from the Trump administration to stay a lower court's decision, saying that on a nationwide basis, the Trump administration cannot block these folks because I'm gonna get more details in that. But yeah, and on a narrow basis, I think 2 trans individuals filed challenging Donald Trump's executive order telling the passport office of the Department of State to only recognize male and female in passports, and that stopped these folks from being able to get passports. But the judge denied a request to have that overruled on a nationwide basis. But I'll get into that one later as well. On student visas, there's multiple cases filed on behalf of students challenging Trump's revoking of their visas, and they're going to win because whatever. And there's been a Ramisa Osterk who was taken from Massachusetts and sent to Louisiana. A judge said, return her back to Massachusetts because you have no reason to keep her there in Louisiana. Just the way they had taken Muhammad Khalil from New York and took him down to Louisiana. They continually try to bring them people down where they feel like they're judges that are going to help them with their lawlessness and their... Anyway, administration. And the final thing is Mansour Mahmoud is a green card holder who also was granted a temporary restraining order in his habeas corpus pleading And he's a good guy. Anyway, more of these. JJ Legal, share this video. Check in with me later on the updates. But I just wanted to give you a general update of what's going on. Crazy stuff. This administration's trash.